Welcome back. In part 3, we will be diving into the kickboxing story. After Jean-Claude's mediocre cyborg movie, Michel Qissi was obsessed with finding a hit similar to Bloodsport. Timing was everything, and a fresh martial art movie was very much needed for both Qissi and Van Damme to stay afloat. The very first draft of Kickboxer's screenplay was nothing short from terrible, weak and uninspiring, with the horrendous name of the main villain character, Tong Po. "What the heck is that?" Qissi criticized. "It sounds like Tom and Jerry. I don't like it." Qissi wanted name to sound more Asian. Michel started playing with words eyebrows, nose, lips, tongue. Wait, tongue. Tong Po. Now that's better.
Nice.
By the way, here is the original Kickboxer screenplay, so you get an idea of how poorly the initial draft was written. And for now, we will use the original name of the character, Tong Po. So, Tong Po comes for an exhibition fight against Kurt but gets disqualified. In a fit of revenge, Tong Po finds Kurt home, sees a shadow, strikes hard and flees the scene. Turns out it was Kurt's mother who got killed. Kurt, devastated, heads to Thailand to avenge her. See how great that draft was? No, it wasn't. Okay, so first of all, how on earth did Tong Po get himself disqualified from the exhibition fight? Come on, make it real. Make it an actual fight. Second, with your thick accent, there is no way you will pass for an American. Let's set a story where a father, who lost his wife, finds a woman in Belgium because he works there. Also, we should introduce an older brother who is very skilled at fighting. Let's start working with that opening, yeah? Glenn Bruce took another step at the screenplay and crafted the version we know today. By the time Kickboxer was being filmed, Jean-Claude Van Damme was already a well-known movie star, but working with him had its challenges. He wasn't always the easiest person to deal with on set. As Michel would recall, Van Damme could be a nice guy one minute and the next, someone completely different, a bit of a bipolar issue, which Jean-Claude would later openly acknowledge in his career. So it wasn't exactly a well-kept secret. But when Jean-Claude was on set, he was fully committed. Everything had to be big, epic and spectacular. He was in the best shape of his life, strictly watching his diet, counting calories and training every day. With such rigid routine, it's no wonder he was hard to deal with at times. Conversations were often mediated by Michel, who acted as an in-between since he would know Van Damme since they were kids. Michel was able to convey messages from the director to Jean-Claude, helping to lower the tension and avoid provoking unnecessary outbursts. Unlike Jean-Claude, Michel Qissi did not worry much about his appearances on set. He ate whatever he wanted, wherever he wanted, and basically had a great time, especially since he wasn't even originally considered for the part of Tong Po. The role was initially offered to Harold Diamond, one of the most famous pioneers of American kickboxing. Born Harold Roth, Diamond earned his nickname Nature Boy due to his long ponytail and his habits of wearing blue jeans into the kickboxing ring. He was considered unbeatable as he knocked out opponents throughout Miami and Broward counties. In 1983, he won Muay Thai championship and soon after retired with an impressive kickboxing record of 17-2, with all 17 wins coming by way of knockout. When Harold and Jean-Claude were scheduled for a photo shoot, they were asked to step into the ring for a sparring session. Harold asked Van Damme if he had his mouthpiece in, but the way he said it, it didn't sit well with Michel Qissi. Sensing that Harold might go hard on Jean-Claude during the session, Michel suggested to the director that he stand in for Van Damme. "Take as many pictures as you want of Harold," Qissi said. "You already got tons of shots of Van Damme from Bloodsport, so let him sit this one out. I'll take his place in the ring." After stepping into the ring, Harold did something Michel Qissi did not expect. With his boxing background, Qissi was not prepared for the powerful low kick Harold delivered, and for a moment, he thought his leg was broken. Reflexes and anger kicked in hard, and Qissi responded with a fierce right hook. Harold bounced back against the ropes and started screaming, "What the heck is this?" Michel walked over and said, "Listen, you hit nice, I'll respond nice. You hit hard, I'll hit hard." Despite his leg hurting badly from that low kick, Qissi returned to the center of the ring, ready with his hands up waiting for Harold. Unsure how to proceed after taking that punch, Harold began throwing slow, careful punches, going soft on Michel from there on. After the sparring session, Jean-Claude looked at Qissi's bruised leg, which had turned blue, and said, "I don't want that Harold guy." The director, Marc Desale, was in shock. "What are you talking about? We just signed a contract with him and pay him a down payment already. We don't have time to find a replacement. We have to leave for Hong Kong now. Jean-Claude, please." Qissi felt somewhat responsible and asked Marc if he could handle the situation. Marc, frustrated, stormed out of the building. Qissi and Van Damme brainstormed, neither wanting Harold to be part of the movie, not with this attitude. They started imagining what Tong Po should look like, an Asian guy, tall, maybe with the ponytail. Michel then turned to Jean-Claude and said, "I can do it." "What?" replied Van Damme. "I think I can play the part," Qissi repeated. "Are you joking? Look at your face, your smile, your hair." Qissi paused and then said, "Jean-Claude, remember that movie with Steve McQueen? The one with the Asian guy with the ponytail? He was a handsome guy, right? Well, I want a similar look, a bald head with a ponytail, but not handsome guy, really evil looking." Van Damme objected at first, "But you don't look Asian. What are you talking about?" Qissi responded, "Remember Earl Ellis, the makeup artist who worked on prosthetics for Cyborg back in North Carolina? Let me talk to him and see what can we come up with." Deep down, Van Damme knew Qissi was onto something. He had a knack for coming up with the life-saving ideas. Stefan Friedman called Van Damme and Qissi, asking them to come to see the director. When Michel walked into the office, Marc was already there, visibly upset. Stefan started the conversation by recapping what had happened earlier with Harold, the signed contract, down payment, the tight schedule, stressing how they couldn't just change everything so late in the game. "There is no time to find somebody else right now," Stefan said. Jean-Claude interrupted, "How about him?" pointing to Michel Qissi. "He'll play the part of Tong Po." "Oh crap," thought Michel. "Why would you say that, Van Damme? Not like this, come on. You have to remember how Michel Qissi looked back then. He had puffy hair, a big smile, and the look of a nice guy." So Qissi tried to backtrack, agreeing with Stefan and Marc that he probably was not the right choice for the role. Jean-Claude could not believe it. "Didn't you just tell me about that guy from Holland?" he asked Michel. The director didn't want to hear any of this, but Van Damme insisted, telling Qissi to show him his injured leg. "This happened during the photo shoot. Do you really want me to end up like that?" he said. Stefan, shocked, had no idea about the incident and glared at Marc, demanding, "Why wasn't I made aware of this? We are lucky it happened now. Imagine if this had happened in the middle of the shoot. We would be broke from all the downtime on location." "So Marc," said Qissi, "we'll go see that Holland guy, do the makeup and take pictures. Then you can choose." "Alright, that's the deal," Marc agreed. Michel and Van Damme traveled to North Carolina to meet with the prosthetic expert Alice. It wasn't a paid job. It was purely proof of concept. If the bosses liked what they created, then Michel would get the role and Elias be paid in full. Once they arrived at Elias' place, they started working on a sketch. Alice grabbed a piece of paper, a pencil, and a poster of a lion for inspiration. He glanced at Qissi, then at the lion, and drafted the very first version of Tong Po face. This was the moment Michel met his greatest character. For him, it was magical. Elias then prepared a full-scale cast of Qissi's head, and after a few days they had created a mask. It took some time to get all the colors right. They added a gruesome scar, a broken nose, pronounced cheekbones, a glued-on ponytail, and even a dragon tattoo over the shoulder. Once everything was done, they took pictures of the final design. Qissi, eager to test it out, showed the photos to his mother. She was the first to see them, and all she could say was, "That's not my son." The transformation was so complete that even his own mother didn't recognize him. A crazy, unrecognizable menace of a beast was born. Mission accomplished, and we all have Alice to thank for it. The day after, they returned to the main office to present the pictures. To keep the surprise, Qissi kept low profile, wearing a hat and hiding his face. There were 9 people at the conference table, including some folks from Hong Kong, all waiting for the photos. When the pictures were placed on the table, there was no contest. Everyone pointed at so-called guy from Holland. No one had any idea it was Michel. Sensing an opportunity to have some fun, Qissi decided to push it further and concocted a story about that guy. Earl Ellis from Holland, who had been adopted by a Dutch family. Qissi added, "To get him to play the part, you better reserve a beautiful royal suite for him, and you'll need to send a Rolls-Royce limousine to the airport to meet him in person." Mark Qissi, eager to get his mysterious actor in the movie, nodded along, agreeing to all the demands, completely unaware it was Qissi himself behind the mask. When they arrived at the airport to meet Earl Ellis, the legendary fighter from Holland, the anticipation was high. Everyone was expecting a towering, larger-than-life character. But as passengers began to disembark, only a group of shorter men emerged from the plane. Mark Qissi looked around in confusion, wondering where this imposing figure was. Jean-Claude pointed at the crowd and said, "He's here, right there." Mark peeking asked, "Where?" With a big smile, Ellis walked over and cheerfully greeted them. "Hi, how are you doing?" Mark was furious, his face turned red with frustration. "What the heck is this? We're making a movie. What is this crap? Where is the guy?" Mark went absolute bananas while both Van Damme and Michel Qissi were quietly cracking up at his reaction. Van Damme, grinning, told him, "Now shut up and wait, be patient, you'll see the guy." All returned to the hotel, the luxurious royal suite where Denis Alexia, who played Eric in Kickboxer, was already waiting. Jean-Claude, Michel and Elias excused themselves to unpack, promising to meet everyone later for lunch. Michel and Elias retreated to their room to apply the makeup, tattoos and prosthetics. After a few hours of work, the transformation was complete. They stepped out to meet the director. In his new growly voice, Michel approached Mark Qissi and said, "Hi, how are you?" Mark froze, staring in disbelief. After a moment of shock, he blurted out, "Mohammed? Is that you?" Denis Alexia was on the floor laughing hysterically. That sealed the deal. There was no doubt anymore. Michel Qissi was perfect for the role of Tong Po. He had officially landed the part. The famous pillar kick took some time to prepare. Qissi asked the construction crew to make the pillar round, not square. Can you imagine hitting a sharp concrete corner like that? So the pillar was made out of plaster, allowing anyone to hit it safely. Yes, it's a fake pillar. Did anyone expect it to be a real block of concrete? Heck no, only in the movies. It's pretty much like a fake wall when an actor needs to either make a dent or punch through it in anger. However, even made of plaster, a square pillar would hurt a lot. Qissi kept reminding the construction guys not to forget to make it round. And sure enough, when Michel arrived on set, the pillar was not round. It was a bloody square with nasty corners. "What happened?" yelled Qissi. Sorry man, we're out of time and it's much easier to make a square pillar." Qissi replied, "Yeah, but I'm the one kicking it." Oh well, it was time to shoot and Michel started making low kicks, trying to be very careful to land it on a flat side. You can actually see it in the footage. But no matter how careful he was, occasionally his leg would hit a corner and oh boy did it hurt. Remember, Qissi's background is boxing. He wasn't prepared for such abuse on his legs. The pain intensified with each kick, but he had to suck it in because the camera was rolling and he was supposed to be the toughest nail fighter kicking a concrete pillar for a living. Assistants had to bring buckets of ice to submerge his poor leg between takes to reduce the swelling. A few times he accidentally hit the pillar with his toes. Son of a gun, that was an agonizing experience. You can imagine Qissi's relief when the director finally said cut. It was done and over with. But it actually got much worse. Michel had to face Denis Alexia in the ring now, who played Jean-Claude's older brother Eric, and he wasn't just an actor, he was the real deal. Denis the Terminator Alexia is considered one of the greatest heavyweight kickboxing champions in the sport history. His record is astounding 70-2 with 65 wins by knockout. During one of the early scenes when Tong Po was fighting Eric, Denis almost killed Michel, by accident. Yes, it's the other way around in the movie, but going against a heavyweight kickboxer on set is rather dangerous act. At first, Qissi was all cocky, thinking he was in for an easy performance. After all, he knew how to box. But the rude awakening was just around the corner. Qissi was all sweaty and ready to charge Denis when he landed one of his kicks right on Qissi's chest. During one of the takes, Denis accidentally kicked Qissi higher than expected, landing right on his neck and smashing his Adam's apple. The excruciating pain forced Qissi to stop and take a long break to recover. That was a really close call. The final fight scene became unexpectedly difficult to shoot. The audience, meant to be watching a serious showdown, couldn't stop laughing. Tong Po's menacing look was somewhat undermined by his ponytail, which kept flying off his head mid-scenes. With all the makeup and sweat, the fake hair just wouldn't stay in place. Every sudden move during the fight would send it flying, making it impossible for anyone to keep straight face. All Qissi wanted after the shoot was to wash off the makeup, but Jean-Claude had other ideas, more like a prank in mind. He convinced Qissi to keep the Tong Po makeup on the ride back to hotel with him. At every intersection, while waiting for the green light, Van Damme used Michel to look around and scare the poor drivers next to them with his fearsome appearance. All Qissi had to do was turn his head and give them a menacing stare. At one point, one driver couldn't take it anymore and ran the red light. He just took off. It was far too crazy and dangerous, and Michel finally told Van Damme to never ask him to do something like that again. "That's enough fun for the evening," he said. "Let's stop before we accidentally cause an accident or kill somebody." The idea of broken glass on gloves was something Mark DeSella decided to include, claiming that this was how fighters used to fight long time ago. However, the notion that fighters in Thailand used broken glass on their gloves is a popular myth. It's not true at all in the context of formal Muay Thai fighting. Traditional Muay Thai fighters would wrap their hands in hem of cloth, and while they might have used hardened wraps in ancient times for extra protection and striking power, there is no evidence that broken glass was ever used in the legitimate bouts. So no, there was no such thing as gloves covered in glass, only in the vivid imagination of screenplay writers. In the final act, there was a push for Jean-Claude and Michel to wear traditional kickboxer shorts. However, Qissi argued that this would look silly given the scene's ancient context. After all, isn't that what the moment is meant to convey? Additionally, he pointed out that he had already worn kickboxing shorts at the beginning of the film, so why repeat it? Instead, he suggested something more primal, akin to what Tarzan would wear. Wouldn't that be awesome? They were big fans of Johnny Weissmuller's version of Tarzan from their childhood. Ultimately, it was decided that raw, primitive Tarzan trousers would be the way to go. There is one iconic moment in the film where hits from 3 different angles are jump cut together, a technique that later became a staple of 80s and 90s martial art films. In reality, this was an accident during the editing process. Michel and Van Damme were compiling clips and carelessly dropped a few punch clips together as a placeholder. They forgot to revisit that section, and when they played back the latest reel to check on their progress, it looked so impressive that they decided to use the technique a few more times, while being careful not to overdo it. This unexpected moment is a reminiscent of Phil Collins' accidental discovery of the gated reverb effect on drums, which happened when the talkback mic was left on during one of the takes. Many great ideas come to life by accident. The final fight was brutal to Michel. It's no secret that actors occasionally hit each other for real during takes, and this was no exception. Some heavy hits from Jean-Claude caused significant damage. It's a surprise Michel didn't get knocked out after some of those blows. Just look at that kick. Maybe he did knock Qissi out cold with that hard landing shin on the face. Michel has a rule to always stay in character and finish the scene no matter what. You never know, it could be the best take and it would be shame to mess it up. The mantra is to keep going until the director says cut. There is an unspoken rule in cinematography: the first take is the best, the second is the worst, and the third is just for the archives. There was another great idea that came from Qissi. By the end of the final fight, Jean-Claude was set to finish Tong Po with a straight high kick to the face. Michel suggested, "Look, you've already got your leg that high, so why not take another shot at the guy behind all the trouble in the village, the boss guy? Kick me first for double satisfaction, then finish it off by kicking that guy in the face. It will be triple the fun and everybody in the theater will love it." The final fight took 3 days to shoot. With the budget of only $600,000, they had 4 weeks to film in Hong Kong studio and 2 weeks on location in Thailand. The movie grossed over $50 million worldwide, solidifying Van Damme's status as a major action star of late 80s and early 90s. For Qissi, Kickboxer was the ultimate dream. He finally played a major role in the martial art film and loved every minute of it. Fans all over the world were captivated by Tong Po, as they had never seen such an immense fear factor portrayed on screen. It was difficult to say who became more popular after Kickboxer, the protagonist or the villain. Still, it is a very close call. People lined up at conventions to get Qissi to sign their DVDs, shorts, posters, and even their passports. Men asked him to sign over Tong Po tattoo on their back, while women requested signature across their chest. It was unbelievable time for Michel. If only it could last forever. But there was no time to rest, another project was on the horizon and Qissi knew they had to make the most of their success while they were hot. Lionheart was coming up and Qissi was eager to deliver another strong box office hit. But that's the story for the next chapter, stay tuned.